In 1662, a ship arrived in the port of Mauritius, carrying with it a strange assortment of goods, including ivory, silk, and cinnamon. But by far the most peculiar cargo was a small, flightless bird that passengers found amusing and curious, a bird so clumsy and stupid that they called it a dodo. It was an accurate assessment of the bird's intelligence, but not of its species. The bird was neither stupid nor clumsy. In fact, it was highly evolved and perfectly adapted to its environment. Its ancestors had flown over from Indonesia more than 130,000 years ago and evolved into this flightless subspecies after arriving. Over time, they developed larger brains than their ancestors, and their skulls became much larger too, with powerful jaws for crushing hard-shelled prey. Their legs grew longer and stronger for chasing prey on the ground, and their wings and feathers became smaller until they were completely flightless. They were perfectly suited to life on Mauritius, where no predators existed to threaten them. There were no cats, dogs, or humans, and certainly no guns or nets. Since they lived in a tropical paradise with an abundance of food, there was no need for them to fly off to find new sources of food. Yet today we remember them as stupid and clumsy. So what really happened to the dodos? Well, here's what. When humans arrived on Mauritius in 1608, they brought with them rats, pigs, and monkeys. These animals were huge, strong, and vicious, and they quickly devastated the island's ecosystem. The dodo's eggs were quickly eaten by these invasive species, as were the dodos themselves. Within 70 years of human arrival, they were already very rare, and by 1681, they were completely gone. But that's not the whole story either. Because while the introduced species did have a devastating impact on the dodos, it wasn't solely responsible for their extinction. While the dodo is often cited as an example of an animal which went extinct due to human activity, the truth is more complex. Yes, humans played a role, but only one, in what ultimately led to their demise. Scientists now believe that the dodos actually went extinct because of natural climate change. You see, between 1360 and 1370, the island experienced a major climatic shift, becoming drier and colder. This would have made it harder for the dodos to find food. Between 1400 and 1450, the island then went through another climatic shift, this time becoming warmer and wetter. This would have led to an increase in vegetation and the growth of forests. Now, up until this point, the dodos would have been perfectly suited to these changes. After all, they had survived similar shifts in climate for tens of thousands of years. But the thing is, while the climate was changing gradually, the composition of the flora and fauna of the island was also changing, and not gradually at all. New species of plants arrived on the island every year via ocean currents, while others disappeared. And each of these changes would have had an impact on the dodo's food sources. Add to that the fact that the dodo, like other large-bodied birds, would have needed more food than smaller birds to survive, and you can start to see how they might have struggled. Even if they hadn't run into humans, their specialized diet may have been their downfall. While scientists used to think that the dodo was an ordinary pigeon, closely related to the rock dove, recent studies have shown that it was actually most closely related to the white-throated rail. This may seem surprising, but it makes sense when you consider the dodo's preferred habitat. Like most rails, the dodo lived in thickets, areas of dense shrubs and small trees. And like most rails, they probably fed on seeds and fruit. The trouble is, unlike most rails, the dodo was flightless, which meant that its potential food sources were limited to the island of Mauritius. Once a particular plant disappeared or became hard to harvest, the dodos would have starved. Their specialized diet, coupled with their large size and slow reproduction, meant that they were particularly vulnerable to any changes in food supply. Of course, the rats, pigs, and monkeys brought over by humans would have had a devastating impact on the dodos, but only because they pushed the dodos beyond the edge. On their own, the changing climate and changing vegetation would have done the trick. Dodos likely went extinct because they were too specialized, too big, and too slow. Humans only played a minor role in this. So are we off the hook then?
Oh well, no.
We humans have caused many extinctions, but if we'd learned the right lessons from the story of the dodo, we wouldn't be causing so many today. If we want to avoid losing more species to our voracious appetites, we'll have to resist the urge to turn every new discovery into an opportunity for consumption. Otherwise, we may find ourselves in a world without wonders. That's all for this episode. You know any obscure animal facts? Share them below. Thanks for watching. See ya.